All right, hello everybody. Welcome to March and the March 2nd libp2p weekly sync. Please add your updates if you have any to the weekly updates in the crypt pad, and if you have agenda items, add those and we will take them as they come. Since we don't have any agenda items, we'll jump into weekly updates and start it off with Arsh. You are muted.
Sorry. Uh, hey guys. So on my side, I finished the work for so the routing table PR for connectivity and maintenance cleanup got merged after Steven approved it. After that, I raised the PR for the corresponding DHT work and some maintenance that we need to do in the DHT. Steven is going to take a look. The PR for correlating AutoNet dial-back responses with the actual inbound connections is also up. Will is going to take a look at that. Other than that, I spent some time learning how AutoNet works. I reviewed some AutoNet PRs that Will had raised and tried the AutoNet issues. My focus now, which was I was about to write, is review Adin's efficient query PR, basically disjoint queries and terminating queries correctly. So I've started taking a look at that. I'm not blocked on anything.
Great. Any questions for Arsh? Nope. All right. Next up, Bashko.
Hey everyone, so last week I addressed the Stardust review, which Jacob did. So you will need to do another pass through it, but we are near the PR to get merged. Then also Yusef got my PR for the docs merged. So basically in the docs website, we now already have the just libp2p tutorial with the new async API and not the broken one. Then I also started creating some issues for JSLib2p as we discussed in the IPFS Team Week. Basically, we are trying to move in the JSLib2p project to ZenHub way of doing things. And yeah, I'm starting to create the issues that me and Jacob will focus in the near future. And as soon as we get things done, I will also get more to the board, because we basically discussed what were our plans for 2020, and we want to get it with visibility for everyone. So for this week, I want to get the Stardust refactor merged and continue in creating those issues. And finally, we also talked a little bit about PeerStore v2, me and Jacob, and I'm going to think about it on the browser context and start writing some stuff. And I also want to maybe sync with Yusef about it, since the goal of B2B team is making some changes on PeerStore. And that's it for me.
Yeah, Arsh?
Yeah. Are there any questions for Vasco before I add something?
Okay, I thought you had a question. Any other questions for Vasco? No? All right, Arsh.
Sorry guys, just one thing that I forgot to say in my update is I have also come up with a PR to migrate the Swarm notifications to the event bus. So right now we listen to disconnect connect events on the Swarm. Right now the plan is to deprecate that. It will still work. We keep it backward compatible, but all the connect disconnect events will now move to the event bus. So it's almost there. Stag is going to give me one last review and we should be good after that.
Sweet. Any questions on that? Nope. All right, next up, Vizo.
Hey guys. So yeah, I finally opened the work in progress PR for Gossip Lab hardening. So right now I have plugged the peer score into the core of Gossip Hub. So the event loop, the heartbeat, and the various methods reaction context. So basically, what's happening is that we have effectively two thresholds per score. So if a peer gets a negative score, it gets removed from the mess, and we don't add it like when we need to add new peers. Okay, and we have a second threshold, which is the gossip threshold, which is slightly below 0. So this is configurable, which is the level at which the peer becomes effectively gray listed, and we stop even announcing gossip to them or accepting gossip from them. So the PR is open, you're free to review. So next up, we're going to implement cloud publishing and the increased gossip dissemination parameter. It's going to be adaptive now. Okay, and then I have to fill the details of the score before we're ready to start testing. That's my update.
Great. Any questions for Viso? Nope. All right. Next up is me. Yeah, not a whole lot of interesting things last week, mostly just keeping people unblocked and then helping with the JS noise side of things. This week, going to work on we decided to go do away with the IK handshakes for now in noise. So I'm going to be working this week on getting more testing around the XX handshake for the Go and JS interop tests. Yeah, and then work on also going to get some Docker Hub builds set up for the WebRTC star repo because we don't have that and the current deploy is quite old. So we're going to get that set up to unblock infrastructure so that they can work on some deploys for that. That will probably be it for me this week. Anybody have any questions for me? No. All right, next up, Yusuf.
There we go. Right, so yeah, we had the discussion about removing the handshakes from noise and figured out that we do want to remove them. I made a PR to remove them from the Go implementation. I'm going to follow that up today because the noise library that I want to switch to, I made a branch to use it instead, and it's slightly faster, but also much nicer and easier to make faster still in the future because we can hook the buffer pool up into it if we want to at some point in the future. So I'm going to put that up today so we can look at it. But yeah, overall the code is much nicer now since we don't have all the messing about with noise pipes and IK and so on. So I'd like to actually tag a release once we merge this in for Go. So, we can have a number like 001 or something. And then I'm going to also try to pull I have an old branch of Go IPFS that uses noise behind an experimental flag. And I could push that up this week also. Then I had also finished the spec. Like I ripped out a bunch of stuff from the spec on Friday, but it's kind of messy and there's some dangling references still to noise pipes. I'm going to finish that, push it up for review. The thing that I started last week with Jacob to sort of diagram out each handshake message, now that it's much simpler to complete that since there's only one handshake pattern, and I'm probably also going to try to work on that this week. We were, just for context to everybody else, I sort of started just to write out like a much more like, in-depth, like here's an example handshake message and what all the pieces are. So that's kind of like in flight, just in the background that I'm mentioning now so that I won't forget that I did it entirely, and hopefully I'll actually get it done. And then this address provenance thing, Raul came up with some good stuff this morning that he bounced off me, and I think I'm going to try to take that, put up like, here's how the API would look, get everybody to thumb it up, and then implement it in the peer store, try to finish that work off this week. And then probably, this week I'm going to just start focusing to review Viso stuff and get my head in the gossips of hardening game, because that's probably something I'm going to be spending time on in the next several weeks. So that's what's up with me. I think that's about it.
Awesome. Any questions for Yusuf? Nope. All right. Next up, Adine. Oh, wait. Steven?
Yes, around the noise stuff. I was wondering if we could like basically just merge the current patches and then review everything as one big batch, because we have that patch. I know you had some refactor stuff in progress. I don't know how much of that is still going to
Yeah, I can close those ones out. Like that I think is no longer really necessary. We could merge what's there now, and then I could submit this, hey, I have a branch now that replaces the implementation, and I can merge that separately. But
yeah, I would do that because then we can review everything as one big whole, because like I don't want to like spend time reviewing this code and then delete the code and then review the code and then delete the code. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, that's what I would say, unless Will has any objections.
No, that's totally fine. We had a chat this morning and agreed that adopting Flank's implementation would be the way to go forward here. But the way that we do it, that's what if we decide to like merge whatever is in progress now and then build on top of that, that's fine. By the way, Steve, do you want a PR to be submitted to IPFS as well to incorporate this as an experiment?
Well, I want to first like review the code. But
yeah, assuming, yeah, totally. But assuming that this is going to be a thing, would you like use that to work on this, or okay, sweet?
Yeah, but like not yet. Like I want to review the code and like it may or may not make it 0.5. We'll see. I kind of doubting at this point. But yeah,
okay,
like
cool.
It's a big like here is new security transport kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Hello. Yep. That was awesome.
Cool. All right, Adine.
Cool. So had some discussions last week with Steven about how we want to handle people who want to run DHTs over LANs or VPNs. We have a plan. Just talking with David about how to do about some of the short-term proposals for DHT improvements. Although given that we are planning on doing an RC for 0.5 very soon, I don't know that really is going to be super necessary. There's a bunch of like, okay, we're doing, release prep sorts of things. Like we have a bunch of commits flying around in various branches, many of them in the stabilized branch, which just has like lots of stuff in it that needs to come out and make its way into master. So I put together like a number of branches to try and separately tackle each of the new things that we have been proposing and working off of, and making sure we actually get out of it what we want. And then sort of adding in the optional functionality we need to support things like LANs and VPNs as this happens. So we have one branch which has query logic, another which has mode switching between client and server based on events coming over the event bus, another that has using events from the event bus instead of the notifications to add peers to your routing table, and then there'll be another one about filtering peers out. There are also a bunch of like random other commits that seem to have made their way into the branch that I'm going to be parsing through and putting up there. So that means that if you are one of the people who made one of these commits in the last 6 months, you'll be getting tagged for review to make sure that what was relevant from when you did this originally is still there. And if you are building things on top of this, which I think is mostly Arsh, putting things on the stabilized branch is not going to be very helpful to you, because then you're just going to have to rebase this and do this all again later. So I would watch out for those branches and see if they look like they are missing things to you, because you'll have had more time to look into the code and you'll be like, wait, that wasn't there when I looked at it. And then you'll know that I missed a commit somewhere. Okay, sounds good. I will be around if you are like confused as to where the state of all of your changes went. Just message me and I will be there.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Questions for Adine?
Hey, Adine, would there be any value in reviewing the efficient? Like I understand we are in very advanced stages, so would you have time to review, address any review comments? Like, would it be worth for me to spend time reviewing it?
I mean, if they're there, I will get to them. It'll just end up being, unless you find something that's like, oh, you made a mistake, which is totally possible with the disjoint paths and stuff. If you do find something like that, let me know. If it's something small, it'll probably just wait until I get another cycle to go through things again. Because the next thing that I want to do after the various branches is the DHT upgrade path, making sure that we can support sort of, protocol version 1 and protocol version 2 simultaneously. But I can only do that once everything else is squared away.
Anything else?
Are you planning to do a detailed write-up of how we are going to address this multiple DHTs, like on the issue?
Is that not Jacob? I think that's already. Is that already there?
Yeah, I need to make sure that's added. I think I dropped that last week, so I'll make sure that
Which
that gets added.
right up and how we're gonna do what again?
The plan to because we talked about that at Team Week, where we are going to basically the multi-protocol support, fallback support. So that's not written up in the multiple DHT issue.
Got it. Okay, yes.
So I just need to get that added.
I think it is in the issue. It's not in the plan, though.
I'll verify it's in the issue.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, next up is, that is not the right one. Raul.
Hey folks, so we just shipped test round 0.2. There is a link. Hey, there's a link to the release notes there. In case you want to see what it's all about, we're going to be planning test round 0.3 and kicking off the sprint officially tomorrow with Rob. So that's well underway. I worked on, as Yusuf said, on address provenance, on modeling this. We have like a good way forward to model an enum that is then gonna be handled by the peer store. We're probably gonna need to add some options, some functional options to some methods in the peer store and a few other things. So I'm gonna be submitting a work in progress PR just so that Yusuf can build on top of it with this particular data type. We simplified, as a few others have said, the noise handshake to XX only, which I think is a really good step forward for now. Gonna also did some work in the Gossip Sub, securing Gossip Sub task force to prepare things and pave the way for the work that's happening. And it turns out that GitHub apparently solved the issue with the problem with issue migration. So I think we might be at a good spot now to try, the whole thing again. So the issues that were borked are still borked. They haven't fixed that, but apparently they claim that if you do the same step by step, it would lead to the same result. The problem is that I can't access the original issue, so I can't remember how I modeled those to reproduce that. So anyway, we'll see how we get through that to get a confirmation, because we definitely don't want to end up working like the entire issues of libp2p if we go for it. That would basically throw us off track for a long time. So this week is going to be a code intensive week for me. I've been knowing a lot of people, a lot of reviews and code and collaboration and a lot of things in general. So I'm going to try to catch up with all of that this week. This means that I'm going to be doing a hardcore sprint on test ground with a DHT test plan and with debugging all the way in and ninjaing all the way in to understand what the bottlenecks are, to understand what we need to polish, what we need to optimize. I'm going to be developing on the address provenance changes and sign peer routing records with Yusuf. We really want to land this week. The only blocking thing was the peer store address provenance thing. So with that out of the way, we hope to land this so that Yusuf can also focus on Gossip Sub with Bizo next week, starting next week. I see you bobbing your head, Yusuf. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, no, I think you're right that was the blocker. With that, once we have provenance, we're still like not using it anywhere. Like I guess is the other thing. Like if we want the dialer to say only dial, signed addresses, then we'll have to write that also. But I don't think that's a blocker to shipping.
Totally. It's not a blocker for peer records in itself, but it would be a blocker, not a blocker, but kind of like a new possibilities that open up once you have this new feature in the peer store. Because for now, the dialer would just be we'll be making this backwards compatible, so the dialer will just be dialing everything that's available in the peer store. But if we want to fine tune that, then we're definitely gonna have to make changes.
Yeah, but I feel like you're right, separate work.
Yeah. So another peer store feature that is in the way of content routing is the pin and unpinning. So is it not, Steve, any longer?
This does not need to be in the way of content routing, and we need to make it not in the way of content routing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would like to punt on this and just keep the address or whatever records we need in memory somewhere else. and like avoid having to like add more and more and more features that get in the way of content routing at the moment, because like this is like basically our last week for features, and like I'm already well, fine. When we get to my updates, I'll talk about the PSR changes, but like I'm already really concerned about landing those.
Yeah.
I don't want to add something else to that list.
Okay, sounds good. Let's talk about this and decide on a path forward. Yeah. I'll be working with Yusuf as well to land Noise XX and to land WebSocket's secure dialing for 0x. I'm gonna be getting up to speed with everything that has happened in content routing and the implementation, which has gone at the speed of lightning. So I wanna get up to speed with that. I'm joining the ETH2 networking call as well on Wednesday, and gonna be reviewing Europa's quality transport PR. That's all I have on my plate for this week. If there's something that you're expecting from me and it's not in that list, shout now or shut up forever.
Actually,
just kidding.
So I think the landing WebSocket secure support should not be that hard. I've already given it a final, what I believe is a final review based on your comments as well. I've opened 3 PRs to like fix some of those issues. I think everything else should be pretty much ready. So
awesome, thanks for that. Yeah.
Yes, for Raul, don't forget to review the Periscore PR, the hardening PR.
Okay, the work in progress PR, right? Yeah.
Yes, so what is already there, and it's worthy starting the review now, because this is how the Periscore plugs into the gossip sub algorithms.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the details of the Periscore are not filled in. It's going to be, we're going to do, at first I thought with the idea of doing a per topic score, but I realized that I was using the global score and some occasions maybe the topic score. And I thought, we're going to do what we said with topic weights within the score. Because if you're misbehaving in one topic, you should be penalized in the other topics as well.
Okay.
Okay, so, and I'm going to add the flood publishing and the increased cost of dissemination tomorrow, but like the algorithm changes are good enough for review.
Okay, cool. So do you, have you captured all these like to-do items in a list inside the issue description, so that inside the pull request description?
Don't want to put too much information in the PR because I don't want to be leaking information to potential attackers to the current file ongoing network. But it's going to progress faster. You're going to see what's missing. It's going to progress faster. So tomorrow we're going to have flood publishing and the increased cost of dissemination. And there is one to do in the code, which is to basically limit the number of retransmissions that we do in messages.
Okay. Yeah. Steven gesturing.
So this is a public recorded call. There's already a like a PR in progress. I don't think it's that much of an issue at this point, but
exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, there was no point in putting much to do. I will update the PR with the figures. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, shouldn't be much of an issue if you just like add some headlines there. Yeah. Cool.
Dean and then Arsh had questions. Yeah.
Raul, is there anything that you need from me for test ground DHT test plan things?
I'm gonna be reaching out to you very likely. If you have any changes that are in flight that you haven't landed, that you haven't committed or pushed upstream yet, then I would like to set a good checkpoint so that I take your current plan and start debugging on it and make sure that you're not making changes in the meantime. So just a handoff point would be great.
I'm done. I haven't been working on it. I transitioned to work on DHT things. So
sweet. All right, awesome. Sounds great. Yeah.
Harsh?
Cool. Yeah. Hey Rahul, would you be able to give any love to the routing table persistence PR? That I and Adi have been waiting on for time immemorial.
Yeah, and already started on it last week again, but then got sidetracked as well. We were discussing, Steven, your hand is raised.
I feel bad because yes, that PR has been going for ages, but I think maybe this week is not the time to try to push that forward.
Yeah, if it doesn't need to go on 0.5, don't work on it.
Yeah,
I just feel like I'm trying to get something off Raul's plate.
Yeah, I think it's not. Yeah, I think it's not in the, as you said, it's not in the critical path of 0.5. Once we Also, there are a few changes that I think are gonna in 0.5 that are gonna affect, the whole the way that we persist the routing table anyway, because now we're gonna have like potentially disconnected nodes and whatever in the routing table. I don't know if we wanna persist those. So Stephen and I were actually in New York. We were discussing maybe a different way to acquire similar information, so that really, if you take a step back and look at what we're trying to accomplish here, is bootstrap and seed a routing table at the initial stage when we start the system, and also heal from a flawed situation, right? So when there's a disaster or whatever reason that we are been partitioned or disconnected from the network, we want to be able to heal, right? So if we like routing periodically is one way of achieving that, and then having an algorithm to seed from that is one way of achieving that. Another way would be to
you dropped the middle of that sentence.
Oh, which one?
The one you just had. You said we need to pause, and then you start talking about what you just said.
Okay.
After taking a
there
step
was
back.
a glitch? Yeah. All right. Oh, there was a glitch. All right.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So so we basically took a step back, and there are two reasons why you really want to have this construct in the DHT, which is one, to start from a blank routing table when you start the system, right? And you want to be able as well to recover from a failed state of the system, right? So these are the two reasons why you want to use some information from a previous state that you deemed healthy of the routing table to recover from that with some seeding strategy, right? So another construct to like another approach, instead of like periodically saving snapshots and then recovering from them, is to have kind of like a more continuous nursery model, right? So it's like you have a component in the system that's watching the connection, disconnection events, the routing table addition, removal, evictions events, and is recording this information so that when something in the DHT needs a number of peers to heal from a failed state, it can just request and say, hey, I want 5 peers, I want 10 peers, I want 12 peers, and this construct is going to return that many peers according to maybe some heuristic. So it's kind of like a different way of thinking about it that is less overfitted to what we actually need, and it's maybe a bit more forward looking. So given the fact that this is not like in the critical path of anything, I would say let's pause for a second. Let's maybe think about like use all of the knowledge that we're gaining from doing all these changes to the DHT to then loop back and like think about more mature ways of doing this.
I'd also, especially like, I mean, certainly not 0.5, maybe even for 0.6, making sure that some of this maybe is like opt-in, because it is nice that it is nice, if not somewhat unfortunate and centralized, that if really bad things are happening to the network, having control over the bootstrappers allows for healing in some circumstances. And so if you're doing major protocol changes and, before we have like tons of public evidence in addition to the test ground evidence of stability, it's like nice to still have that.
I don't think any of this has really a chance to land before 0.5. This is still up in the air.
Yeah. I think it's a cool topic to start discussing at some point. Like how do we want to do disaster recovery and like identification of like failed states as well, because this goes as well hand in hand with failure counting and things that we want to work on anyway. So really, you don't want to like, if you've been poisoned and you've been attacked and you have a poison routing table, you, for example, don't want to be saving snapshots of that table, because then you're going to be attempting to. So currently the PR that's up would be having this problem, right? So that's why this forced us into like rethinking a little bit more with like all the information that we have.
All right.
Yeah, so let's
we're at time, so we'll move on to the remaining folks for anybody who doesn't need to run, because we are a couple minutes over, but we'll finish up. So if you have any questions for Raul, ping him. Steven, you're up.
Okay. So yeah, I did some reviews in the Talon PR. I have 3 small PRs against that. Initial noise reviews. I'm going to continue, or did some unblocking quick pre-shared key stuff. I'll try to finish up this week. Really, the important part is that like box asks, peer store changes, and trying to get the noise changes merged so we can review it as a whole. I actually think at this point maybe like deprioritizing the noise changes a little bit for like a week or two might be a good approach, because I don't think like we're gonna get them to like the good place we want them to be to cut a release like within the next couple of weeks. In terms of the peer store changes, that's what I really want to talk about. Like at the moment, as far as I know, they're still kind of up in the air. Have we landed on designs for for the non-pinning stuff, the sources information?
Yeah, there is a part of that is done. And there is another part missing, which is how to incorporate it into the PS4 API. But we have a path forward, which is by using functional options and a few other things. So I'll put up a PR now.
Okay, because basically like my concern is that I don't want everything else to block on this. At the moment, like everything is kind of blocked on these peer store changes because it's all kind of funneling through like the core API. And like we can't really release a new Go core because the changes haven't been made there. So like now we can't, like we have some like events and stuff like that.
Right. So you have the events. Yeah, got it. Let's unpack this. Let's unpack this to see if we can retrack some of the changes on core, release whatever you're depending on right now, and then continue working on this with the little bit less pressure.
Because like the signed peer store stuff also has like these events around like generating new signed records and that kind of stuff. Which is where we're also getting the events for, hey, your addresses have changed, which we are planning on using inside of AutoNet. So like it would be nice if we could just like have those anyways and say, okay, we're not actually storing these signed records, but we can still generate them, make them, speak the new like libp2p protocols if we need to, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So if we could somehow merge that stuff without merging with the rest of it, that would be kind of nice.
Yeah, let's take this offline and discuss on how to do it, because I think we can. Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Okay, awesome. Because I want to make sure, like, if this does end up taking longer, we don't end up like blocking the releases, because like, it's really critical to have signed peer records. But like fixing the DHT doesn't like hard depend on it. So yeah. Okay, that was really the only thing I wanted to talk about. Yep.
Any questions for Stephen? No. All right. Droppo.
Yes, I had one thing, which is there a point during this week or next week where it'll be like either I need to allocate time towards bubbling up the signed records things into the DHT and like change the protocol, or like we're giving up or not doing this for 0.5? Like when does that happen?
Unfortunately, probably by the end of the week. Like I'm not seeing this happening. But
okay, so we can revisit it. We can revisit it like next Monday or whatever and see how we're doing.
Okay. I think we're sort of down to the wire at this point, where it's like, well, it's either in or out, which is like kind of the way it is.
Yeah, because we're targeting the release of the first RC of IPFS in 2 weeks, which means we need to wrap up libp2p so we can integrate those changes into IPFS.
Yeah, and we need to start like merging all like the libp2p changes. It's like we could still start merging all the libp2p changes together, start like testing them all as a unit. So like if this thing magically shows up and like we actually manage to actually finish it, then great. But like it doesn't appear like it'll cause any issues, then we can try to sneak it in. But like I don't want to hard depend on something where we're still at least like we think we know how to do things, but we still have some open side.
Yeah, well, we can still retract any of these changes and just release the subset that you need in one patch release now, and then follow up with another one.
Yeah, well, that's the point. So like that's what I'd like to do. We're like, if a small release now that has the things we need, and then if we manage to get like everything else done, great. If we don't, whatever. It's like it's like not often, but yeah. Okay. Sorry, I think it's it.
Okay, sorry, drop out. You might be muted. We can't hear you. Okay, it looks like we can't hear him, but there is a quality transport issue. and he's got nothing to say. So it looks like he opened up a draft issue.
I'll take a look
there,
at it.
So cool.
Get back to him.
Sweet.
I think Steve already took a pass, but yeah, I'll take a look at it as well.
Cool. All right. That brings us to the end. Did anybody else have an update? There's an admin. Oh, no. Anybody else have an update? Question, comment, concerns? No? All right. That is it. We will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.